It is the final word daily. The England West Indies men's test match daily, to be precise. The first of these, it's the preview edition for the Lord's match beginning on Wednesday. Adam Collins with you. I'm in London. I'm not at the ground, though, because it's pissing it down with rain, and I'm just fucking sick of it, Jeff. I've been outside on so many days where it's been raining this summer. I'm like, sod it, I'm going home. You're in Lisbon, where it's probably nicer weather. We have news to report from the teams. We have news to report from the press conference. We have Jimmy Anderson stuff. We have stats aplenty. We have a new series upon us. Good afternoon to you.
We have so many things, and we're switching out of T20 World Cup mode. This is a different kind of daily. A test match daily is a different sort of thing. You're not necessarily recording it at 1:15 in the morning from the lobby of a hotel. It's the only place that you can get a reasonable internet connection. You roughly know what time it is. It's the Flavor Flav daily. It will be relatively consistent. There may be a little bit of rain that pushes things out, but you kind of know when stumps are supposed to be. This is why we like Test cricket. It gives you reassurance. It gives you solidity. It gives you something to hold on to, unless that thing is the career of James Anderson, which is about to end, and with it, the only remaining cricketer older than many of us who love the game will go, and that is a sad moment in the progress of time, and there will be plenty of build-up about it. There has been plenty. There will be plenty more. There will be pieces written on all of the sports pages tomorrow about how this is it, and then everybody will be tuning in to see how he does. And however he does, it'll be sad, because if he bowls badly, it'll be like, oh, well, that was a bit flat and disappointing. And if he bowls really well, it'll be like, well, he should be playing the next test. Where's he going?
Yeah, even I'm going to flex those muscles tomorrow. I am going to write an article tomorrow about James Anderson. I don't do that so often these days. But I don't know yet. I've got 1,000 words to play with, but, okay. I've got some ideas. We'll see where we end up with it. I'll tell you who has been writing, and we'll get to Jimmy, but Nick Holt had a great interview with Ben Stokes. I thought it might not be a bad way to frame our conversation, Jeff, just because, when you hear from the captain with a really excellent journo in Holty before a series, it tends to be worth reading. And it's clear, and from Stokes' press conference as well today at Lord's, there has been a shift in language. Baseball version 1.0, if you want to call it that, was all about the here and now, winning the test in front of us, doing what we need to do to get back on our feet after a torrid couple of years of test cricket. It kind of made sense. And they did that. They had a wonderful record at home, especially. They beat Pakistan in Pakistan 3-0. Most things went well, even the Ashes series of last year. They don't win it, but they have the better of the last 3 test matches, and that story's been told many times, including by us. But now they're not talking about what's directly in front of them, not explicitly. They're willing to message about what's coming down the pipeline against India next year at home, but even further down the pipeline, the Australia Test series in 18 months from now. And, Stokes is saying that, Jimmy still does a job. He'll always do a job. It's kind of not the point about what he can do at home. We are almost a repeat of the conversation we had 2 months ago. We are now desperately trying to get test matches into bowlers who haven't had that opportunity when Anderson and Broad have been the 2 first names on the team sheet. So Gus Atkinson is the first of those. That's kind of exciting, right? Gus Atkinson's quick. He's bowled well for England in short form cricket, both in 50-over cricket and 20-over cricket. He looks like he's ready for this next step up, and he'll get that chance this week. And in all probability, Dylan Pennington will get his chance next week when they play the second test against the Windies. So they've got a plan, and this is, I guess, part one of it as they say goodbye to Jimmy.
Yeah, it is something that, and I suppose I've thought about the conversation we had a couple of months ago, and I fundamentally keep coming back to the same thing, which is that if Anderson's doing what he's doing, then why do you need to push him out? I mean, I thought that, so there was a bit of blowback on what Stokes was saying in the press conference, talking about Australia, from people saying, well, he shouldn't be talking. Why aren't they concentrating on the series in front of them? It sort of made sense to me the way that it was laid out, which was that what we initially were trying to do was just that, just focus on exactly, the next test we play is the next test we play. Don't think about anything else, and get back the feeling of enjoying it, of enjoying playing test cricket. That was an important part of the component, which sometimes gets glossed over. So that made sense. And then coming to a point of saying, okay, we've done that for a couple of years. Now, what do we do? Like, where can we take this team? What's the highest height we can take it to? And so we are starting to think about the next really tough mission. And I don't think that is necessarily disrespectful to the team you're about to play, because you're playing a team on home soil where you should expect to be winning those series. Most test teams win at home. That's just the way that the game pans out. So you should be more optimistic. You should be more buoyant about your opportunities of doing that. And it doesn't mean that you don't then stop thinking about you're then unable to think about the next more difficult challenge, which is doing something away from home. And it doesn't mean that you don't get rolled over by Sri Lanka on English soil or by West Indies on English soil. That can also happen. So I didn't actually have a problem with any of that particularly. It doesn't make sense to me that if you've got this future-looking plan and you're saying, well, we can't afford to keep picking the guy who's probably not going to be at the Ashes, then equally, why are you picking Chris Wokes? He's going to be 37 when you next go to Australia. He probably won't be going. He shouldn't be going.
No, he won't go.
He's got a wicket every 95 balls in Australia, and he averages 52.
He said as much.
So
and I think that's interesting too. Like,
why is he there?
Yeah, I take your point. Like, why is Wokes there? Why are they not playing Pennington this week?
Why
as well,
are they
right?
not playing? Why are they not playing? Why don't you have Anderson and Wokes vying for one spot for the rest of the summer? If you want your experienced England specialist, why aren't those two vying for that place while you've got a couple of new bowlers in? That would make some sense to me, but picking one of them who's not going to continue, even though neither of them will be making that trip, that doesn't make sense.
I think that's like a procedural fairness thing with Wokes.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you want to be really crude about it, is Wokes in the best 11 ahead of Anderson? Like, you can make the argument.
Probably.
He was player of the Ashes last year, right? He was player of the series at home. He's fit at the moment.
Yeah.
You can...
No, he's brilliant in England.
He's brilliant in England. So if you're picking one guy who's the continuity candidate, who is about this test match explicitly and this series and indeed next year, I mean, I sometimes joke about what Dan Worrell might be able to do against India next year on the Surrey stream. I say joke. There is some seriousness to it. Dan Worrell against India in England for 5 test matches might be too good to refuse when they have to make those calls when Worrell becomes eligible next April. But assume that doesn't happen, right? Having Wokes to beat not only the Windies and Sri Lanka this summer, but potentially India next summer, to me, that all tallies. So, yeah, I agree. In an absolutely perfect world, it's just kids, right? It's like footy club rebuild stuff when you finished 17th
Robbie
on the
Williams
ladder
and Nicole Kidman.
the previous year. Yeah, that's right. It's like
Kylie Minogue.
Kylie Minogue.
Completely mashed my...
Yeah.
I can't remember my 90s Australian.
No, that's cool. But, it's like well, I guess in theory what Hawthorn have been trying to do the last couple of years. Play the kids, get games in the kids. But like, you can't really ever do that in the test match cycle. The play the kids thing, there's no equalisation, there's no draft, there's no salary cap. So you've got to kind of, again, walk and chew gum concurrently. So I think like this week, Anderson, Wokes with him, sure, it is what it is. But next week, I'd be very surprised if Potts and Pennington don't come straight in, right? Like they'll give all three a chance to start getting test matches into them, and that'll be the plan. Just on Jimmy stuff, and we should indulge in a bit of Jimmy stat wank now. If we can't now, then when can we? So, we all know about his overall record, 700 test wickets, absurd as it is. He'll finish with 188 test matches. Andy Zaltzman reminded me of this on his excellent Bugle podcast with Mark Steele last week, 2 former Final Word guests. It's perhaps the funniest election analysis of the lot. No, it isn't. Probably it is. It's just those two being their brilliant selves. And Zaltz referred to Anderson needs 13 to take 1,000 in international cricket. I'm like, that's interesting to me. Yeah, he needs 9 to overtake Warne, 13 to get to 1,000 international wickets, and an even 13 would give him 100 against the West Indies in Test cricket. So Stokes is in the paper saying, I want Jim to take all 20. So he won't be doing that. But if he has a massive Test match off the back of a 7 for last week, I'm not completely ruling it out, Jeff.
Well, you couldn't completely say that you wouldn't then. There wouldn't be a thought about it. I suppose you've got a couple of 3-day turnarounds between the matches. If he's running hot, like, why not? Why not? I mean, if he's if he's too short of 1,000, if he takes 11. Or if he's on 707, surely you give him the opportunity. I really wanted them to let him get 12 more tests in and catch Sachin on test matches played.
That would be nice.
Just to see if SRT would turn out for another one. They just schedule another series against the West Indies and get Sachin
miss you,
out,
Sachin, and the rose petals and so on. I think the Root's going to catch him, right? Didn't we work this out a few months ago? I think we've worked out that Root gets Sachin in the end, so long as Root plays the test matches we think he will in the next 4 weeks. There's some version of this where Root gets there and Anderson will be 12 short. The other one here is that at Lords, Anderson has played, it'll be his 29th test match at Lords alone. 29 tests at one venue. Blimey. He's taken 119.
Ryan Harris played.
100, Well, I guess before before in England, they've always shared the test matches around. Maybe in Australia, there might be someone who played like 20 at the SCG early days or something like that. But I doubt it.
I suppose, with they used to play a couple in Melbourne, a couple in Sydney.
Couple in Sydney.
That sort of era.
Yeah. So, but there wasn't the volume of test matches full stop, was there? Because there were summers without test cricket and so on.
Bradman plays 52. Bradman plays for 24 years, whatever it is, and plays 52 test matches. So there's no way he could have played half of them at one venue.
I reckon Ponting might have played like 17 Boxing Day test matches, something like that. Yeah. Anyway. So 119 test wickets at the venue at 25, as you'd expect, economy rate of 2.7, 7 fifers, et cetera, et cetera. He's bowled 299 maidens at Lords, so he'll tick that box. That it means an awful lot.
Almost
He's conceded 2,994 runs there, so he'll concede 3,000 runs. And I like that he and Broad were going stroke for stroke on most wickets at Lords towards the end of Broad's career.
Right.
At the moment, they've both played 28. Broad 113, Anderson 119, so we can't be overtaken by Broad again, obviously. But they're 1 and 2 by a mile with both of them 69. Make your own gag there. Third man in. Nice.
Alan Border played 20 games at the MCG.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
There's one for you.
That's a good one. So that's England in a nutshell. The other thing that's been percolating, Jeff, is
in a nutshell.
One more thing on selection. Bashir's in, which is pretty big call. Takes his county wickets at 70.
Especially after he got tonked the other week.
It's a big call, and it's all gut.
Yeah.
Again, Stokes, refer back to him. It's all gut. He's like, we just think this guy's got it. End of story. We just think it's him. We've seen enough from him. We think he's different enough to succeed in Australia. Again, that Australia word being used to reference it. Same with Jamie Smith. We brushed over this because we talked about it on the weekly show with Cam Ponsonby last week, but Jamie Smith, the rationale there is we just think he's got the right game to succeed around the world. I mean, okay, fair enough. These are hard conversations. Calling up Ben Folkes, who he described as still the best keeper in the world, to say he's not playing. Johnny Bairstow, same sort of message, thinking his career is probably over, although they've kept the door ajar, at least with their public.
Got a 2-year contract,
language.
Doesn't he, Bairstow?
He does.
Another 18 months. He got a contract last October, so he's probably got 14 months left to run
to play like 6 one-dayers probably, because I don't think he'll be in the T20 side.
Cricket.
Yeah. It's a good result for
him in the 50
Bairstow.
over side. Would they take him to the Champions Trophy? Because
probably
surely they basically use their 50 over team, though, England, to do to form their 20 over team now. They're pretty much just the same outfit. So
it's true.
If he's not going to play the next T20 World Cup, why would he play in the 50 over side in the handful of fixtures that they actually play?
Yeah, it's a good point. But Smith coming in, Bashir coming in, both because they like them, although in Smith's case, he's absolutely made the case numerically as well as stylistically, you could say. With Bashir, it's they just like the cut of his jib, and they love the way he handled himself in India, and he's younger, and he is a different kind of finger spinner with the way he approaches the crease with that kind of shuffle thing he's got going on, high release point, all those different things they're keen on. So he'll be playing in the England 11 this week. The back and forth, Jeff, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this because I forgot to put it on the agenda for the weekly show. The Our Take video released by the ECB last week where all the news lines, I didn't watch it, but I did see the clip where Stokes was trying to console his teammates after what happened at Old Trafford with the rain and saying that they're playing cricket that'll be remembered by everyone forever, and that was taken the piss out of by Fox Sports. And then Stokes jumped on top of the Fox Sports clickbait, and on it goes. And now he's responding to his own comments with, again, Holty's interview to the effect of, well, there's always going to be niggle between Australia and England and, no harm, no foul kind of thing. But how did you see that one?
I think it was the formulation that people are lucky to see us play. I think that's what really, really got people, especially when you're charging them 180 quid a head to come in and watch a day of Test cricket that
Fair point.
Gets rained off. So that did irritate people. But it's part of this ecosystem, which in a way the players can't help, which is that a really interesting series happens with a whole lot of hype around it. We, the public, are interested in the series. So we want to hear more about it. We want to know more about it. So someone makes a documentary about the Australian team sitting in the dressing room because that's going to make money. Someone else makes a documentary about the English team. Someone writes a book about it, and players get interviewed for the book and they give quotes and so on. And then those quotes come out 6 months, 9 months, 12 months later. And then the public response is, look at these losers still talking about this series that happened a year ago. Like, why are they so obsessed with it? They're the ones being asked the question. because you want to watch the documentary or read the book, because you're the cricketing public who wants to consume this stuff, who wants to hear what they have to say about it. And so then the quote gets popped up with someone's photo online as though, I don't know, Ben Stokes just popped his head out of his door one morning and went, by the way, I was just thinking about it. Generations of people have been very lucky to see us play. They should be very grateful for the opportunity. Just thought I'd let you know, like he's talking to the postman or something. He didn't just come up with it overnight. You know, he didn't Kevin Spacey it in the shower one morning, although there might be a bit of those overtones to it. He got asked the question on a documentary, or he was doing his bit in the dressing room because he's trying to G up his team or whatever it is. So I do think it's unfair to an extent that players get blamed for the fact that the quotes are attached to them when they're not the ones who are deciding that that's when it should come out, that's when it should be released. But I also think it's funny to accuse whoever it is of the whole rent-free in your head thing when you're also the team who's changing its entire structure, who it's picking, and all the rest of it for a series that is not going to take place for another 18 or 20 months. That does seem to be a little bit in the head as well.
Yeah, I guess to an extent that is true. The rent-free in one's head, I feel like it's a formulation of words I never want to see.
It's jumped the shark so again. Hard. It's so boring. Just let it go.
It is.
And anyone interesting or cool who ever used it, they have long moved on to something else on some new app that you've never heard of. And now it's left with the losers, the boomers, the dredge of the internet, the social media interns looking for something to put something up to click. Oh, it's Mark Ramprokash's birthday. Better put up a post. You know, all of that kind of bullshit. Everyone who's got nothing worthwhile to post on any platform, turning to the same old side eyes emoji, blah, blah. Get a life.
Sounds like these online boomers are living rent-free in both of our heads, it is reasonable to say.
Well, yeah, because they're boomers. They don't pay rent.
They seek the rent.
They charge us.
They seek the rent. They
charge us 3 times the market rate.
Before we talk about the Windies and rally around them, I should have said at the top of the show that it's brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City.
Yeah.
More extra, less ordinary. More about them in a sec. Actually, you know what? More about them now. More about them now. We're in the middle of the show.
West Indies field.
Jimmy Anderson might be ending his career this weekend. But if you are, or someone you know, aged 14 to 20 is, wanting to get into the modelling industry, head to Westfield London on Saturday the 13th of July and the Elite Model Casting event.
I don't know what proportion of our audience is looking to get into modelling, but I mean, this is a real Hail Mary. But if they find some talent out of it, then fine.
I like that both you and I. There was a joke in the copy in the Caribbean for the modelling bit, and you and I both self-edited and didn't read it out. We didn't read out the joke because we both knew in that moment.
To each other.
I heard you. I thought, I wonder whether Jeff will read this verbatim. No, you like I self-edited. If you think like Jimmy Anderson, you can do your best work with a bit of swing down a straight stretch of territory, then register for the, I'm not even sure what that means, but I'm sure it's clever. But
swing, it's like, you think the catwalk's like a pitch, you know, it's like,
right.
You've got to have a bit of swing while you get from one end to the other.
Okay. It's good. Then register for the casting event
turn left
online. So you don't miss out on your chance to count yourself alongside Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, and Kylie Jenner as elite models. Westfield London. Come and join the mod squad. So there you go. It's called, what's it called? It's called Elite Model Casting. There you go. You can.
I want to see some of the broader final word community getting a contract out of this.
13th of July. Well, you know, I don't know. There might be something in this. We're always hustling as freelancers. We're always hustling.
Yeah.
There might be a buck to be made in, you know, I don't know. There's that catastrophe episode where Rob Delaney goes in and tries to be an extra large model. You know, you're pretty tall, Jeff. You can go in there and say, look, I'm pretty tall. Yeah. I'm 6'5". What do you got for me? I've got the best hair inside the N25, even if it has been rained on today.
Shoes.
I had a guy come up to me the other night.
Shoes. Let me model them. Let me put them on.
There you go. I had a guy come up to me the other night when my hair was quite nice after cricket out the front of a pub and wanted to touch it. He's like, that looks amazing. Yeah. Can I touch your hair? I'm like, only if I can touch yours. And we touched each other's hair for a while. It was wonderful.
It's a bonding experience.
Kind of made my night. We'll have more from Westfield when we're talking about the Hall of Fame every day. Rallying around the West Indies we'll do just after a short break. This is the Final Word Daily. It's the preview edition for Lords. Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon for Westfield. The big W, West Indies. Well, you know, I suppose, Jeff, you would say with their form line, based on how well they played against Australia at Brisbane, you wouldn't back against them putting in a good account of themselves. But you look at them on paper, and I don't know. I am not convinced this will be as competitive as I want it to be. Like I really want this to be a 3-test series that means that we can continue to talk about the renewal of West Indies Test cricket. I mean, Jason Holder's there; he wasn't there in Australia. Craig Brathwaite's a great man to lead this side, as he's done for a long time. They've got a bolter debutant opener, which I always like. We'll talk about him in a sec. Kirk McKenzie made runs last week. Alec Athanase made runs last week. Kevin Hodge made runs last week in the tour game against the Counties. There is something going on here, but Jimmy, Wokes, Lords, Atkinson on debut, it's not going to be easy.
Swing. Well, let's remember a couple of things. One, West Indies, current holders, not Jason's, but trophy, beat England last time out in the Caribbean, as they always do, because England just cannot figure out a way to beat West Indies at the West Indies homes, wherever they play on the islands. West Indies end up winning those Test series. Well, England won once about 20 years ago, and that's.
I think they won in. I feel like they won in. Like definitely won in 2004. That was quite. The 2004 win was quite important. That was the Harmison 7 for 11 or 7 for 12 or whatever it was.
I think that's the only one since. It's the only one in decades where they've actually won a series away. So there is that. Obviously harder to do in England. West Indies did win a Test last time in England during the COVID situation. Southampton, was it, when they had that good win? Yeah,
who was captaining England that week for the first time?
Ben Stokes, wasn't he?
Ben Stokes. Benjamin Stokes, cricketer from England. It was his first Test as captain when Root was with his wife having their first child, I think it was. So,
that's right.
It was a bloody good Test match. It was last day, Blackwood, wasn't it? Last day made 90 odd, and they chased like 250 odd. It was must see TV.
Blackwood batted really well. Look, Brathwaite, you've got, who's by far the most experienced, played a million Test matches, all the rest of it. Most of the rest of them haven't. Mikhail Lewis, 23 years old, has barely played first-class cricket. Classic sort of West Indies thing they have to do at this sort of stage. The same with Athanase, the same with McKenzie, really, who's only early 20s. They pick someone based on talent because they just don't have a body of work in first-class cricket because nobody plays much. So there's only a handful of games per season.
I think with Lewis, though, like I kind of get it, right? You know, he's battered himself into this team. He wasn't opening in the tour game, made a half century in 28 last week. It wasn't like the strongest opposition, but they did have John Turner and Josh Hull playing for that Counties 11, and they're two of the bowlers they're keen to get. I know Hull's a fair bit younger, but Turner's one of these guys, right? They want to get into England ranks soon. It wasn't a dibbly-dobbly 11, if you know what I mean. No. So he's made runs last week. He made a century in the final game of the domestic season for Leeward Islands. He made twin 50s the week before that. So, 7 first-class games, but he's performed in more than half of them. So I understand why they've done it, but you're right. Like, it is, you don't get a Test match after 7 first-class games in most countries unless you're a generational freak, and I'm not sure whether he's that, but good on him for bursting his way into the 11 in time for the first Test.
It's the way things have gone, especially the last few years, that if you show some glimmers of ability, you can find your way in the side. McKenzie was good in Australia at times, made a couple of pretty solid-looking 50s, drives along the ground through the offside really well. Left-hander, I mean, that might be a point of vulnerability as well if you've got McKenzie and Athanase left-handers back-to-back in the middle order, given sort of what Anderson sometimes does against lefties. But and Athanase is more your attacking. He's more of a slapper. We saw him bash some runs against India last year, wasn't it, when they were over there? But he looked way out of his depth in Australia. But they're backing him as an aggressive talent. Kevin Hodge was really impressive in Australia. He made important runs in Brisbane, wasn't it? And bowls a bit as well. So can do some work with a bit of reasonably tidy spin. But it still looks like a short batting lineup when you've got Holder coming in at 6. Holders. I'd love to have Jason Holder at 8 in a Test team, but I wouldn't really love having him batting at 6.
He's done it at 6 for the Windies before, but it's a fairly long time ago, right? Like most of the time when Holder's made runs, it's been at 7 or 8. Look, it's great that he's there. He's had that block of first class cricket for Worcestershire. And then, unfortunately, he got injured with Worcester, which is why he missed the T20 World Cup. Interesting, there's not many names on here who played in the T20 World Cup. Alzari Joseph, of course, who enjoyed some success. Gudakesh Moti, the left-arm spinner, so there'll be a spinner for both sides.
Only 2.
They might be the only. Shamar Joseph was in the squad.
Shamar was in the squad, but he never played.
I don't think he played. Jaden Seals might have played a game, possibly. No, he wasn't.
Shields didn't play.
You know what? I'm thinking about having watched Shields bowl recently. It was for Sussex, where he's been tearing it up. It looks to me on the streams that Seals is at least a yard quicker than the bowler we last saw, Jeff. So, again,
he was very out of sorts last time he came to Australia, and that was 2 West Indies tours ago because they had the back-to-back ones, but he just didn't look himself. Alzari Joseph was terrific through the T20 World Cup. Super aggressive, bowled the short ball well. Had pace, has that sort of just completely deadpan, sort of blank aggression sort of look on his face the whole time as well. He's just not a bowler you want to trifle with. So he's around. Moti, I'm not convinced by in Test cricket. I don't think he's got what it takes when you need variation. He's a containing sort of bowler who can work well in white ball cricket, but he's there for this match. So, look, it's not the most convincing 11, but you can make an argument on paper for the fact that they should be able to put up a contest.
Yes, he sort of replaced Jamal Warricane in the left-arm spin ranks for the Windies. The man the authorities came to blame. I haven't said his name in a while. It's an excuse to say that, wasn't it, really? There?
It's just...
where are we? Yeah, so that's the Windies as names. The only other name on that list who'll bat 10 is our hero from Brisbane, Shamar Joseph. So can he back it up in his next Test match? Let's hope so. Jeff, that's enough
maybe it's good for him that there's been a big break. Maybe because he wasn't. They didn't Hail Mary him into the T20 World Cup squad. They didn't sort of put too much pressure on him to be the saviour of West Indies cricket, and he's had time to sort of come down off that high, and the expectation won't quite be there. But I mean, Jesus, if they, if whichever way the coin goes, if West Indies are bowling on morning one and Shamar Joseph takes a couple quickly, that hype train will be reaching 88 miles per hour and getting the hell out of the Wild West.
So the weather does look good for what it's worth, which means very little in England at the moment. For the next 5 days, for the Jimmy Anderson farewell, I'll be there at Lord's for the first couple of days. I'll have Cam Ponsonby with me tomorrow at Stumps. There'll be the usual rotating cast of co-hosts that you're familiar with across this series with Jeff, myself, Daniel will get involved as well, and I'm sure we'll ring some other people in as we go. All of it will be for Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. They are more extra and they are less ordinary. I'm going to Sixers tonight, Jeff. Not even for a final word thing.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't call it recreation. I'm going to a Cricket Writers Club thing there to speak out with Will, but I am going to Sixers, and I will make sure that I'm registered for the Westfield app. Hopefully you all are. Patreon.com/The Final Word to back us in and all the work that we do in our Discord channel and all the rest of it, and to get the ad-free feed. Has been the Final Word Daily, and we will be back with you at Stumps tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.